In this session, we will discuss about probability. When we are discussing about the probability, first we have to go through few definitions related with this probability, the concepts of the probability. First, we will go through the definitions of the probability, and then we will move for how to define the probability of an event and some theories related with the probability which we'll need for the uh, which is helpful when we are going to apply these things in practical situations. The first definition we have to these are several terms actually we have to pay our attention, and we have to have a very good idea regarding all of these things as said. Okay, first we will see what is meant by an experiment. An experiment is a mechanism whose outcome is uncertain or cannot be predictable. It is quite like this. Now take an example of tossing a coin. If you are tossing a coin, you exactly know that you are getting either head or tail. These are what we are saying as all the possible outcomes of this experiment. It means that if you can see the values that we are getting throughout an experiment, we are saying such things as the outcomes of experiment. But anyhow, we now need to have a definition for the experiment. It says that an experiment is a mechanism whose outcome is uncertain or cannot predictable. In this situation, none of us can be say that, okay, in this time I will definitely get head. You cannot say that this is the exact outcome you are getting. You cannot predict on this. It is because there is a chance of getting head as well as there is a chance of getting tail as well. That is why we can say that outcome, the defined outcome cannot be predictable. It is because it is based on with some chance only that such mechanism is meant to be an experiment. Therefore, we can say that an experiment is a mechanism whose outcome is uncertain. It means that until we are finishing this experiment, we do not know what is the exact outcome. That is why we can say that outcome is uncertain or cannot be predictable. But most of the time we know that what are all the possible outcomes. Therefore, the only thing we know is we will get at least one of these outcomes. It is the only thing that we know, but none of us can say that this will be the exact outcome we are getting. Now we will consider about the next term. It is the sample space. The collection of all possible outcomes of the experiment is called as the sample space, and it is usually denoted by S. If you consider on this matter, the sample space, when we are going to discuss about the sample space, it can be said as collection of all possible outcomes. Collection of all possible outcomes of an experiment. It means that if you are performing an experiment and you are considering all the possible outcomes, then such a set is said to be the sample space of that experiment. As an example of tossing a coin. If you are tossing a coin, what you know is you are either getting head or you are either getting a tail. Therefore, you cannot see any other outcome other than these two outcomes. Therefore, these two outcomes can be considered as the sample space, and it is usually denoted by the uppercase letter S. And this can be say as the set S is contains the head and tail, since these are the only outcomes that we can see inside an experiment called tossing a coin. And if you consider on the second experiment of rolling a die, if you are rolling a die, then what you know is if a die with 6 sides, they are numbered as 1 to 6, then you know that if you are rolling a die and if you noted down the number on the surface of the die, then you will get either it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. Therefore, you can see that there is no any other outcome other than these 6 outcomes. Therefore, this can be considered as the sample space for the experiment of rolling a die. Then it can be written as S is named as this set of the sample space, and the elements would be the numbers from 1 to 6. That is how we are defining the sample space. And you know what is now the sample space. And if you are taking a single subset of this the sample space, if you are having the sample space S, and if you are taking a subset of the sample space, then it is said to be the event of event. Actually, this event is similar as the outcome of the experiment as well. Generally, we are denoting an event by the uppercase letters such as A, B, C, P, Q, R. Likewise, we are using uppercase English letters to denote the events. It is in this way. Now, if you are considering about the first example of tossing a coin, then you can say that event A is the event of getting head. A can be considered as event of getting a head. Then another one can say that I will name event B as B is the event of getting a tail. Likewise, we can name the events using the uppercase English letters. And in this one, in the second example, you can say that event A as obtaining odd number. Obtaining an odd number means that if you roll the die, then you can get the numbers as odd numbers or even numbers. Then this is one event that you can name. Another event can be naming as obtain an even number. This will be another event that we can consider on this. And if you consider about another event on this experiment, you can say that obtaining of event of, here we can say that this is C is the event of obtaining a prime number. Obtaining a prime number, then you can have the prime numbers as here. If you consider this set, then C will be, here it is 2, 3, and 5. Likewise, you can obtain the elements for the given event. Therefore, if you can identify a subset from the sample space S, then it is called as the subset you are obtaining is called as the event. And events are usually denoted using the uppercase English letters. When we are going to discuss about the events, there are several types of events that we can see inside these scenarios of this probability. When we are going to discuss about events, first we have to discuss about the simple event. Simple event, it is an event consisting of single outcome. It is quite like this. If you are considering the experiment of tossing a coin, and if you are naming the A as obtaining head. A as if you are naming that A is event of obtaining a head. Here we can see that there is a single outcome. Therefore, we can say this as a simple event. Another can be said that B is the event of obtaining a tail. Therefore, this is another simple event that we can consider. It is because it has a single outcome only. Therefore, if you can if you consider an event, if you can see that the event consists of a single outcome, then such event is said to be a simple event. Then we will move for discussing on the mutually exclusive events. So far we have discussed up to the simple events. Now we will consider two events. We will consider two events, event A and event B. when we are consider for a single event or simple events, we are not defining these mutually exclusive events. Therefore, if there is more than one event, then we can use this mutual events concept. Then if we are having two events as A and event A and event B, then the occurrence of one event prevents the occurrence of other events. Occurrence of one event prevents the occurrence of other events. Then such events are said to be the mutually exclusive events. It is quite like this. Now think about the same example of tossing a coin. If you are tossing a coin, if you are letting event A is obtaining head on the coin, event B is named as obtaining a tail on the coin. Therefore, if you consider these two events, here you can see that when you are getting a head, it prevents the event of obtaining a tail. It means that at the same time, these two events cannot be happen. That is why we can say these two events are mutually exclusive, and therefore happening of one event prevents the happening of the next event is said to be the such a if the happening of one event prevents the happening of the next event, then such events are said to be the mutually exclusive event. It means that there is no any common part for this event A and event B. Next example, if you consider the rolling a die, if you are considering rolling a die, then if you are considering event A as, I will take rather than same letter. If I take event P is obtaining an odd number, then event Q is said to be obtaining an even number. If you are considering about these two events, then for the event P, you will have the elements as on the die we may get it is 1, 3 or 5. In the event Q, you may get the values as 2, 4 and 6. Now you can see that happening of event P has prevents the happening of event Q. It means that at the same time, both events cannot be happen. Therefore, these two events can be considered as the mutually exclusive event. If we are considering these two events as mutually exclusive event, according to the set theory, we can say that the intersection of these two events, intersection of P and Q is equal to we are saying this set as the null set. It means that if you consider the common items for or the common elements for these two sets, there will not be any common element. That is denoted by this notation in the set theory. For the previous one as well, we can say that obtaining head, obtaining tail. Therefore, if you are considering the A intersect B, then we can say that it is equal to 5. It is because this represents the null set. Similarly, we can use the Venn diagram on this mutually exclusive events as well. Now think about this. This is the Venn diagram that we are denoted. Here it is S or epsilon can be used. And if the events are mutually exclusive events, then these can be considered as two disjoint events. It means that there is no any intersection for the event A and event B. That is why we can say that these are two disjoint or two mutually exclusive events. It means that if the events are mutually exclusive, the occurrence of one event prevents the occurrence of the other events. It means that either at the time considered, we can have the event A or else event B, but there cannot be any intersection of these two events. Then I will discuss about the exhaustive events. If you go through the wordings of the exhaustive events, two events A and B are said to be exhaustive if it is certain that at least one of them occurs. If you are considering the event of the experiment of tossing a coin, then we know that either we are getting head or either we are getting tail. It means that there is no any other events which can be happen when we are tossing a coin. It means that you are getting either head or else you are getting either a tail. Therefore, if you perform this experiment, then we know that at least one of these events must be happens. Otherwise, this experiment cannot be done. Therefore, if you identify such events, then those are said to be the exhaustive events. Therefore, we can say that two events are exhaustive if it is certain that at least one of them occurs. In here, if you are considering the experiment of rolling a die, if you are considering rolling a die, here we can see that outcomes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you consider these 6 outcomes and if you let A as obtain 1, event A is obtain 1, event B is obtain 2, then event C, D, E, and F. Likewise, we can say that obtain of 3, obtain of 4, obtain of 5, and obtain of 6. On the surfaces. Therefore, if you see on these 6 outcomes, we know that if you are rolling a die, at least one of these outcomes should be there. Otherwise, this experiment cannot be done. Therefore, if you find out the events as that if it is certain that at least one of them occurs, then we can say that these 6 events are exhaustive events. It is because if you are considering set of exhaustive events, then there cannot be any other event other than the considered set of events. Simply, there cannot be any events other than the set of exhaustive events. It means that if you are considering set of exhaustive event, at least one event among them should be happen. And now we will consider about the next type of events we are having. Those are said to be the equally likely events. We are saying that two events are, if we are considering A and B as two events and the chance of occurrence, those two events are equal, then we are saying that such events are equally likely events. If you consider this tossing a coin, we know that altogether there are two outcomes. Among these two, one outcome is getting head. Among these two, one outcome is getting tail. Therefore, if you consider about getting a tail, probability of getting tail, getting head, then we can say that it is actually 1 out of 2. If you consider the probability or chance of getting tail, then we know that again this is equal to half. It is because we know that there are only two outcomes only, and if you consider that this is a balance point, we will have the same chance of getting head as well as getting tail. Then we can say that getting head, obtaining head and obtaining tail are two equally likely events. It means that here we can see that the chance of occurrence of the event of obtaining head is equals to the chance of the occurrence of the event of obtaining a tail. Means that the chances are similar. If you consider the next example of obtaining a number from 1 to 6, here we can see that if it is a balanced die, then we can say that in these 6 events, probability of A or the chance of occurrence for event A is 1 over 6. Chance of occurrence for event B is again 1 over 6. Chance of occurrence for event C is again 1 over 6. Here this is 1 over 6 and chance of occurrence of this as 1 over 6. Therefore, this is how we are getting the equal chances. And here we can say that since here we can see equally chances for each event, then we can say this set of events as the equally likely. Then we will move for the next type of event. The next type of event we are considering as the independent event. When we are going to discuss about the independent events, it can be said that the occurrence of any of event does not affect the occurrence of any other event, then such a set is said to be the independent event. Now consider about these two events, event A and event B. Here we will say that example, we will consider an example of tossing a coin and rolling a die. This is the experiment we are performing, and we can say that event A is obtaining it. Obtaining a head on the coin. I will let event B as obtaining of even number on the die. Here we will suppose these are the two events we are having. A is supposed to be obtaining a head on the coin. B is supposed to be obtaining an even number on the die. Now we can see that these are two, if you are considering this experiment, event A is based on the coin, event B is based on the die that you are rolling. Therefore, obtaining a head on the coin will not definitely affect on the obtaining an even number on the die. It means that these two events can be happen independently. Then we can say that these two are independent events. Therefore, simply we can say that happening of one event does not affect on the happening of the next event, then such events are said to be the independent event. Here we can see this example. Then we can see that tossing a coin is just completely independent from rolling the die. Therefore, observing head on the coin is not affected by observing an even number on the die. That is why we can say these two events are independent events. If you move for the next type of events, those are said to be the dependent events. The occurrence of one event affects on the occurrence of the next event, then such events are said to be the dependent events. Occurrence of one event affects on the occurrence of the next event are supposed to be the dependent events. It is quite, if you are considering this example, if you are considering event A is getting rain rain on tomorrow. If you consider the event A as getting rain on tomorrow and event B as getting floods on day after tomorrow. Now, if you think that I will consider event A as getting rain on tomorrow and event B as getting floods on day after tomorrow. It seems that if we are getting heavy rains, I will say it as this as getting heavy rains on tomorrow. Now, suppose that if we are getting heavy rains for the tomorrow, then there is a chance of getting floods by the day after tomorrow. Therefore, now happening of this event B is affected by the happening or the occurrence of event A. Therefore, we can identify these are two dependent events. It is because if we are not getting heavy rains, then there will not be having any floods. But if we are getting heavy rains tomorrow, then there is a chance of getting floods in the day after tomorrow. That is how then we can see that for the occurrence of event B, event A has affected on that. That is, then we can say that event A and event B are two dependent events. Now we will discuss about the probability and probability of an event. So far we have discussed about the terminology used in probability, the basic things, and then we have discussed about the types of event we are having, and now we are moving for the defining the probability of an event. When we are going to have an idea regarding the probability of an event, there are several definitions made on this probability of an event. Here we will first consider about the classical probability. Suppose that we are having an experiment having the sample space S, which is having finitely many elements. And here we will consider that each of which is equally like to occur. Then for event, we'll let it as E. Then if you need to identify the probability of this event E, then we can identify it as, or we can obtain the probability of event E as number of elements in the set E divided by the number of elements in the set S. And generally, if we are having the event as E, let E be the event, then we can say that probability of event E, this is denoted by PE. This is how we are denoting the probability of an event. And when you are going to define the probability of this event, then what you can do is we can say probability of the event is number of elements in E divided by number of elements in S. Here S is supposed to be the sample space. As an example, if you consider the example of rolling a die. If you consider this experiment of rolling a die, and I will have the sample space S as all the possible outcomes. Those are the numbers from 1 to 6. It is because we are rolling a die which is numbered from 1 to 6. And we will let an event A as obtaining an odd number. If you are consider this obtaining of odd number, you can first find out the elements which will be included in the set A. Here we can identify that elements in this set A would be 1, 3, and 5. In this set A, we can see that there are 3 elements. Therefore, we can say number of elements in set A. We can denote it in this form. Number of elements in this set A is equal to 3. And here we know that number of elements in set is total number of elements in the sample space is equal to 6. Then if you are defining the probability of this event, it has, according to the definition of this classical probability, it was identified as that number of elements in the event A divided by the number of elements in the sample space. Here this can be now substitute the values. N A is 3 and N is supposed to be 6. That is why we are getting this value as half. Therefore, probability of occurrence of this event A, or in other words, probability of obtaining an odd number on the surface of the die is equal to half. According to this definition of the classical probability, we can simply obtain the probability values in this form. When we are going to discuss about the probability values, we have to pay the attention on this as well. Generally, the probability values are lies between 0 and 1. Probability, if you are considering an event A, and if you are defining the probability of this event, then this value should be definitely in between 1 and 0, or in between 0 and 1. It can be have the value as 0 as well as 1. Generally, when we are obtaining the probability value, we will get a numeric value for the probability. Based on the numeric value we are interpreting the probability. Now we'll see how we can interpret such things. Here I have included 3 examples on this as well. If you are considering an event which cannot occur ever, if you know that the event cannot be happen ever, then we know that probability of such event is equals to 0. Simply consider an event of a human being living without blood. Simply, if you consider on the event of a human being living without blood, we all know that a man cannot be live without blood. Therefore, such event cannot be happen ever. Therefore, it is an event which is not happening ever. Therefore, the probability of such event can be considered as 0. And if you are considering of the sun rising from west, we all know that sun is rising from east, and the sun rising from west is never happens. Therefore, we can say that probability of occurring of the event sun rising from west is equal to 0. It is because we cannot see that, or we may not able to see the event of the sun rising from west is happening. That is why we can say such events probability is equal to 0. Therefore, simply we can say that if you know that the event cannot be occur ever, then the probability of such event is equal to 0. The next case is if you know that event is definitely happens. If the event definitely happens, then probability of such an event is said to be equal to 1. And simply, if you consider about the human's death, we all know that if we have born, then the death will be definite. We do not know what is the date, but the death is definite. Therefore, if you consider the event of human's death, it is definitely happening, and the probability of getting human's death is equal to 1. And simply, if you consider the event of sun rising from east, we know that it is certain. It means that the occurrence of that event is ever happens. It must occur. Therefore, the probability is sun rising from east is equal to 1 since the event is exactly happening. And if you consider on the next case, if you are not sure that it means the event may be occur or may not be occur, then the probability of such event is a value in between 0 and 1. We have defined how to get 0, how to get 1, and how to get a value in between 0 and 1. As an example, if you are buying a lottery and if you are supposed to get a winning for the lottery, there is only a chance. None of us can say that no, there is no any winning for the lottery, or there is definitely a winning for the lottery. We cannot comment on both cases. Therefore, we can just say that there may be a winning or there may not be a winning. That is why we can say that probability of such event is a value in between 0 and 1. Therefore, by combining all these 3 scenarios, if we are considering any event, it is defined that probability of such event is in between 0 and 1, inclusively 0 and 1 as well. When we are going to define, when we are going to go through the calculations and to have an idea regarding the experiment we are doing, then we can use we can take the help of this probability tree as well. Therefore, this is one concept widely using concept in probability, the concept of using the probability tree. If you, I will use this I will explain this using an example. if we are considering an example of tossing three coins simultaneously, suppose that we are tossing three coins simultaneously, coin one, coin two, and we are tossing third coin as well. Therefore, what we can get is, and we can, when we are doing this experiment, we can show the outcome of this experiment using a probability tree. Therefore, you generally we are used to show the what we can say visualize this experiment. We can use this probability tree technique. Therefore, if you are considering the tossing of the first coin, if you are tossing the first coin, then you may get either head or you may get tail. It is for the coin one. This is for coin one. Now you have already tossed the coin one. You have either get head or else you are getting a tail. And then we will move for the next coin. It is the tossing of coin two. When you are tossing the coin two, you can toss the coin two once you get the head from coin one or else once you get the tail from coin one. Therefore, in both of these situations, we can toss this coin two. If you toss the coin two, once you get the head on coin one, then you can get either head or else tail in the coin two. Or else if you are considering the next event, getting tail on coin one, and if you toss the coin two in this scenario, then you will get either head or tail on the second coin as well. Now you have already tossed the first 2 coins, and the remaining is the third coin, coin 3 you are having. Here also you may get either head or else you may get a tail. Here as well you are getting head or else this is a tail. And even though you are getting head at this moment, again you may get head or else you may get tail. And here you may get head or else you may get tail. This representation is meant to be the probability tree or tree diagram. And using this probability tree, we can easily identify the events occurring in this experiment. If you identify the events that you can see, if you consider a single branch of this probability tree, if you consider the first branch, and if you go along with the first branch, you can see that there are 3 heads. In the first toss, you got a head. In the second toss, you got a head. In the third toss, you have got a head. Therefore, the first event is obtaining 3 heads. It is, you have to write it accordingly. No need to change the order. First head, second head, third head. In the next event, in the first coin, you got a head. Second coin, you got a head. Then you got a tail in the third coin. Likewise, we can identify all the possible events in this way. Head, tail with another head. Then head, tail with another tail. Then tail with 2 heads. Tail, head with another tail. Then tail with head, and tail with another. Therefore, if you see the outcomes of this experiment, here you can see that there are altogether 8 outcomes. Here we can see that there will not be any outcome other than this outcome. Therefore, this can be considered as the sample space. Then we can write down the sample space in this form as well. Here we can see that the sample space S is denoted as S, and now it has included all the possible outcomes of this experiment. That is why we can see that this 3H event is there, HH with T event is there, then HT with H event is there. Likewise, we can say at the end, the 3 tails, the event of getting 3 tails is also there. Therefore, we can see that altogether these 8 outcomes has included in this sample space, and it is now denoted as the set S. But in the probability tree, what you need to do is, it is just a graphical representation of this experiment. And if you are considering tossing a coin and rolling a die, if you are considering about, I will take this as rolling a die and toss a coin. Here, this is the experiment we are performing. First, we are supposed to roll the die. If you are rolling the die, then you will get 1, 4, 5, and 6. This is the outcomes we are getting once you are rolling the die. And then we will toss the coin. When you are tossing the coin, after getting 1, then you will get head and tail. Then head, tail, head with tail, and here this again head with tail. Then this is the T diagram associated for the experiment, rolling a die and the tossing a coin. Therefore, if you consider on the first event, it is getting 1 on the die and head on the coin. Then 1 on the die and tail on the coin. And if you consider about the last one, it is 6 on the die and head on the coin, or else 6 on the die and tail on the coin. Likewise, we can identify all the events based on the experiment, rolling a die and tossing a coin. Now we will discuss on the relative frequency theory on probability. Relative frequency theory on probability is supposed to be, if you are repeating the same experiment for a large number of times, then the relative frequency of occurrence of the event approximates to the probability of that event. In the previous session, we have discussed about this, the concept of the relative frequency, and it is supposed to be, in that time I have directly said that it is supposed to be the probability of that event as well. Therefore, using this relative frequency theory, we can show that as well. In the relative frequency theory, it says that if you are repeating an experiment for large number of times, then the relative frequency of the occurrence of that event approximate to the probability of that event. It is quite like this. Now think that if you are tossing a coin for 100 times, if you are tossing a coin for 100 times, and then out of this, suppose that you have obtained 55 hits. Suppose that you have obtained 55 here. We'll say it is 55 hits. Now, you know that the relative frequency of this is getting head is probability of getting heads can be considered as 55 divided by 100, which equals to 0.5. Now, suppose that you are tossing the same coin for another time, then altogether now you know that there are 101 tosses are there. 101 tosses are there. Suppose that if you are getting a head, this is one chance we are getting is obtaining head. It means that previously you had 55 heads, then now you may see that it is altogether 56 heads. Since you have obtained a head in the next toss as well. Therefore, if you calculate the probability of obtaining a head, then this is equal to 56 divided by 101. 56 divided by 101. If you consider this value 56 divided by 101, this is again, if you round off to 2 decimal places, 3 decimals, you will get this as 0.554. And if you see the next event, it means that probability here, if you are tossing the coin for 101 time, if you supposed to get a tail, it means that there are still 55 heads, 55 heads only. Therefore, in this situation, if you supposed to obtain the probability of getting head, then this would be equal to 55 divided by 101. If you get the value for this 55 divided by 101, this will be equal to 0.544. If you see these three probability values that you have obtained, those are nearly similar, nearly same. That is why we can say that if you are repeating, here it is just 100 times, but if you are repeating this experiment for a very large number of times, then this will the value will be limited for a constant value. Such value is said to be the probability of the happening of the event. That is how we are defining the relative frequency theory of probability. And we can see this if you are repeating it for very large number of time, like the thousands, then this will be here we are getting a value which is same for similar for the first decimal, and but if you are repeating it for very large number of time, it will be constant for several decimal places as well. Then we will move for the basic probability rules under the axiomatic approach. Here, these are the rules defined under the axiomatic approach of the probability. If you are considering the probability of an event, suppose that is the event you are considering, and if you are considering any event A, then we have to say that probability of any event should be in between 0 and 1, inclusively both of them. And the next theory that we have to consider is probability of obtaining the sample space is 1. It means that if you are considering either head or either tail, if you are tossing a coin, and if you are getting head or tail, it means that you are getting the sample space. It means that either head or either tail, it means that definitely this event is happening. Then the probability of happening of this event should be exactly equal to 1. This is how we are defining the probability of the sample space. Therefore, generally we can say that probability of the sample space is equal to 1. If we are considering the any two events, consider any two events A and B, and for any given two events, then we can define that probability of A union B. Probability of A union B is generally defined as probability of A plus, probability of B minus, probability of A intersect B. This is the general rule we are using. If you are consider any two events, not necessary to be disjoint, here we are not considering about the mutually exclusive. If you, for any events, we can say that the union of those two events can be obtained using probability of the first event plus probability of the second event minus the probability of the intersection of these events. It is quite simple in this way. If you are using a Venn diagram on this, here what we are going to do is, if we are having A and B, now we are going to identify what is the probability of being in this colored region. But when you are going to discuss this matter with these two disjoint events, if you are considering two disjoint events or mutually exclusive events, then we can see that there is no any intersection for this event A and B. If you are considering the A union B, then it can be colored up in this way. Therefore, we can simply say that probability of A union B is equal to probability of A plus probability of B. It is because according to the, when we are discussing about the mutually exclusive events, yeah, A and B and two disjoint events, then we know that If these are two disjoint events, we know that A intersect B is equal to the null set. Therefore, the probability of happening this event is definitely equal to 0. That is why we are getting probability of A union B equals to probability A plus probability of. And if you consider about the fourth one, if B is a subset of A, suppose that B is a subset of A, it may be subset or completely a subset of A, then we can say that if this happens, then we know that probability of B is definitely less than or equal to probability of A. If you show it using a Venn diagram, you can obtain it in this way. Suppose that this is your event A and this is your event B. If you are considering the event A and event B, now you can see that there is less number of elements in event B compared to the number of elements in event A. That is why we can say that probability of obtaining or probability of occurrence of this event B is less than to this probability of this event A. But if you consider on this matter, sometimes this can be considered as two equal events A and B. If A and B are two equal events, then this equality exists. And the last one is if you are considering the negation of any event. If you are considering the negation of event, then we can define the probability in this way. If you are considering the probability of the negation of event A, then this would be equal to 1 minus probability A. If you show it using a diagram, then we can say that this is the event A. And if this is the event A, then the colored area can be considered as the negation of this event A. What we know is if you let this as A dash, then we know that probability of A plus probability of A dash should be equal to the probability of S. It is because if you are considering these are two events, then we can say that the addition of the probabilities should be equal, or just the addition of these two events should give us the complete event or our sample space. That is why we can say this as probability of A plus probability of A naught or negation of A equal to, here we have defined that probability of sample space equals to 1. That is why we can show that probability of A negation equals to 1 minus probability of A. Therefore, under the axiomatic approach of probability, we are using these basic probability rules. When we are go for the practical approaches and when we are using it for the calculations, then for the easiness of calculation, we can use these rules which have made under the axiomatic approach of probability. Now we will discuss some examples related with the things that we have discussed so far. I will discuss them one by one. The first example, it says that you are asked to draw a card at random from a deck of 52 cards. What is the probability of getting a queen? Here with the very simply we can use the definition for the classical probability. Here we know that for a deck of cards, we know that there are 52 cards included in a deck of cards, and then you are asking what is the probability of getting a queen card. If you name the event A as event A is supposed to be getting a queen card. Suppose that this is the event, we'll let event A as event of getting a queen card. Now, if you identify the number of queen cards that you can see inside the deck of cards, here we can see that there are 4 queen cards. Therefore, we can say that NA, or the number of elements in this set A or the event A, is equal to 4. And we know that number of elements in the sample space, it is given as NS. This is equal to 52. It is because the total number of cards that we can see inside a deck of cards is equal to 52. Now, if you use the classical probability or the definition for the classical probability to define the probability of this event, then we can define this as probability of event A is the number of elements in event A denoted as NA divided by number of elements in event S. Then this can be now you can substitute the values that you have obtained. Therefore, we can say that value is 4 divided by 52. If you solve this furthermore, then you can simplify it as 1 over 30. Therefore, here we can see that we have taken event A as event of getting a queen card. That is why we can get the probability of the occurrence of this event A is equal to 1 over 30 or as 4 over 52. And this is for the first example we are considering. And now we will consider the second example. In the second example, prior to move for second example, in the first example, we have just used the classical, the definition used for the classical probability. It is the, to find out the probability of an event, what we are doing is number of elements in that event has to be divided by number of elements in sample list. Now we will consider the second example. In the second example, we can consider it as an urn contains 712 whites and 4 green balls. Therefore, here we will consider an urn having, there may be some red balls. It says that there are 7 red balls, 7 red balls, and it says that 12 white balls. And if you see there are 4 green balls. This is what they have provided for us. And here, suppose that it is shuffled well, and suppose you are asked to drawn a ball randomly, and you are asking what is the probability of getting a white ball. Here, what we need to obtain is probability of getting a white ball. Therefore, we will consider the event is getting a white ball. We'll let so white, I will write this as W. W be the event of getting a white ball. Event of getting a white ball. When we are going to discuss about when we need to identify the probability of occurrence of this event of getting a white ball, then what we can use is we can here also use the what we are saying as the PW. PW is supposed to be probability of occurrence of getting a white ball. Then this can be considered as NW divided by NS. It is where W is supposed to be the event we are considering, and S is supposed to be the sample space we are considering. Therefore, if you identify the values for NW and NS, we can get NW means number of elements or in this set W, and simply we can identify number of white balls. Altogether, we can see that there are 12 white balls used for the experiment. And to get the value of this number of elements in sample space, what you can do is you can get the addition of these 3 types of balls. Means that 7 plus 12 plus 4, altogether we are getting this value as 20. Therefore, if you need to get the getting the probability of obtaining white ball, this would be equal to 12 divided by 20. The third one, The third example, what is the probability? They have given us some events and they are asking what is the probability for each of these events. An odd number appears in a single toss of a actually single rather than saying we say it a single roll of a fair die. If you are rolling a fair die, what we know is if it is a fair die, then we will have the values in this form. It is from 1 to 6. Then, if it is if you are considering the rolling a die, the event which is supposed to be occur is appears an odd number. Therefore, we let A be the event of occurring an odd number on the set. In this scenario, first it is better to identify what are the possible elements of this set is. A is supposed to be the event of obtaining odd number. Therefore, we can see that odd numbers are supposed to be 1, 3, and 5. Then we can say that elements of this set A is equal to 3. And here we have already identified the elements of the set S or the sample space is equal to 6. Then we can, using the classical probability theory, we can obtain the probability of the event A is supposed to be number of elements in event A divided by number of elements in sample space S. This is equal to 3 divided by 6 itself equals to half. Therefore, we can simply say that obtaining an odd number on the surface of a die, once we are using a single roll of a fair die, then we will get this as 1 over. It is because there are altogether 6 odd numbers, there are altogether 3 odd numbers, and there are altogether 6 outcomes, 6 possible outcomes. That is why we are getting this 1 over 2 from this 3 divided by 6. And if you consider the next part, the second part, it says that the sum 7 appears in a single toss of single roll of pair of 2 pair dice. We'll say it as roll as well. Now it says that we are rolling 2 dice. If we are rolling 2 dice, then we will get the sample space in this form. And simply we can get the sample space 1 on the first die and 1 on the second die. Likewise, 1 on the first die with 2 on the second die. Then 1 with 3, 1 with 4, 1 with 5, 1 with 6. Then number 2 on first die, 1 on second die. Then 2 with 2. Likewise, you may get the values. Then 6 with 1, 6 with 2, 6 with 3, 6 with 4. Likewise, you may get 6 with 5 and 6 with 6. Therefore, this would be the total possible outcomes that we can see inside this experiment. If you consider this experiment, then you can identify that NS or the number of elements in the sample space is supposed to be equal to 36. Now, according to this, the given event, then we are asked to identify the sum 7 appears in this. Therefore, now we will consider obtaining sum 7 as the event. Then if you identify the possible outcomes that can be fall into this event A, it means that you can get the sum 7, 1 from the first die with 6 from the second die, then 2 from the first die with 5 from second die. Likewise, 3 and 4, then 4 with first die, 3 with second die, then 5 with 2, then 6 with 1. Here, if you consider this first and last, these are two different scenarios. It is because in the first one, it says that number 1 appears in the first die and number 6 appears in the second die. But in the last case, number 6 appears in the first die and number 1 appears in the second die. Therefore, Now we can identify that possible elements of this event A. It is NA is equal to 6. All possible outcomes are equal to in this event is 6. Therefore, using the classical probability approach, we can simply obtain this probability of A is equal to NA by NS 6 over 36 equals to 1 over 6. This is how we are obtaining the probability of the event in this. The next example or the next event considered here is at least one head appears in two tosses of fair coin. Suppose that if you are tossing a fair coin, here I will use the tree diagram for this scenario. If you are tossing a fair coin for 2 times, when you are tossing the coin for first time, it will be your first toss, then this would be head and tail. Then you will go for the second toss as well. In the second toss, from the head from the first toss, make use these two values. Now, if you write down the possible outcomes in this experiment, you may go when you go along a single branch, you can identify the possible outcome. Then head with head. This will be head with tail, tail with heads, and tail with tail. Once you perform this experiment, this set would be the what we can say as the sample space for this experiment. And here it is asking at least one head appears in two tosses of fair. When we are going to discuss on this matter, what we can see is it asks us to at least one. At least one head means you can consider this third event is possible, fourth event is possible, second event is possible, and the first event is also possible. It is asking at least one head, not the exactly one head. It asks at least one head. It means that there can be both can be said to be two heads. Therefore, now you can say that if you are considering event A as obtain at least one head, then you can identify value of NA is equal to 3. And you can see that number of elements in sample space. In the sample space, there are only 4 outcomes. Then we can say this is equal to 4. Then we can simply say probability of event A is equal to N of A divided by N of S, which itself equals to 3 over 4. This is how we are obtaining the probability for a event. And here some examples are included, and I will discuss those examples in the next session. And this is all what I need to discuss for this session. And again, thank you for all of you for joining with this session.